Released in America on September 30th, 1996 for the PlayStation 1, Tobal No.1 was a fighting game made by Dream Factory, a company that has made games like Guys, God Bless the Ring, and The Bouncer, a game I haven't played, but I've watched Proton John play it. This game looks awesome.
Oh my god!
Tobal No.1 was another odd title to come out of Squaresoft during their heyday. I've already talked about Saga Frontier, but now it's time to talk about that weird fighting game that didn't have most of the Final Fantasy VII cast in it. The story goes that on a planet called Tobal, an emperor by the name of Udan holds tournaments to see who is worthy enough to obtain Momorin, a rare ore that can be used as an energy source. In enters fighters from all over the galaxy to strut their stuff and show off their moves in hopes of winning. And that's it. All of these characters have backstories, of course, but you would have to look in the instruction manual if you wanted to know more. It's fluff anyways. Some people are here for fame and glory, some want the prize so they could sell it or use the energy for their own personal use. You know, fighting game stuff. But story is most of the time not a fighting game's main center of attention. That belongs to the gameplay. Tobal is a 4-button fighter. You got your low, medium, high, and a guard. You also got a jump button. I don't know if that helps classify it as a 5-button fighter, but I'm pointing it out either ways. It's also very simple. No supers, no finishers, just punches, kicks, grabs, and ring outs. Think of it like a slightly better looking Virtua Fighter. Which makes sense since Dream Factory's head was Seiichi Ishii, some dude who helped create Virtua Fighter and even Tekken. And it definitely shows. Tobal may be simple, but it's incredibly satisfying to play. Trading blows, strafing around the 3D arena, all while an amazing soundtrack is blaring in the background, it's fantastic. And speaking of, the soundtrack is nearly flawless. With 8 composers, 3 of those being Yasunori Mitsuda, Yoko Shimomura, and Kenji Ito, they all add in their own piece and make a truly diverse soundtrack with boppin' beats and remarkable rhythms. Finally, there's the game modes. You got your normal arcade mode, this time called tournament mode because, fun fact, this game never was in arcades. It was a console exclusive fighting game, a concept that was nearly unheard of at the time. Anyways though, in tournament mode you fight 11 opponents, 8 of them being the initial roster and the last 3 being Mufu, the spindly plump weirdo with a pretty chillin' theme, Nork, because every game's gotta have the big guy that towers over the rest of the cast, and Emperor Udan himself, because why should he let you get the ore if you can't take it out of his fierce bunny hands? After beating Udan, you get a cutscene of your character jiving down the aisle and celebrating their victory. No epilogue or flavor text saying what they ended up doing with the prize, and that aspect is a little disappointing, but hey, what can you do? Of course you got your 2-player versus mode, but this section of the video, and heck, most of the reason for this video's existence, is mainly because of quest mode. In this mode, you pick one of the characters and are thrust into a hub world where after beating the tutorial that teaches you the basics, you can pick a dungeon to go through. Yes, a dungeon. There is a beat-em-up styled RPG in this fighting game. Man, I miss when fighting games used to do this. Just an enjoyable mode so non-fighting game enthusiasts can have something extra to play on the side. Like Soul Calibur 3's Chronicles of the Sword, that was a real-time strategy game. Tekken Force, that was a 4-stage side-scrolling beat-em-up. Smash Brothers' Subspace Emissary, that was a 2D platform beat-em-up with amazing cutscenes. And of course, there was a Motor Combat. You know, just a kart racer in this fighting game. But back to quest mode. You run through dungeons avoiding traps and progressing deeper and deeper until you reach your goal. You have a health bar, an attack stat, and a defense stat. While running through dungeons, you will see these floating blue rhombi. These are Momoran stones. If you have 5 of these and run over a specially marked pink area, you will be given an item in exchange. But be warned, after getting 3 items from the space, it will disappear. So you're going to have to be careful about your item management. The items can be bread that recovers your health, meat that recovers your health with the addition of increasing your attack or defense depending on the size of it, attack for smaller meats and defense for bigger, and of course, potions. Depending on their color, potions can either help you or hurt you. They have random effects like increasing your maximum HP, decreasing your maximum HP, leaving you with 1 HP, or putting you into hyper mode. What's hyper mode? That's hyper mode. These items can also be found randomly on the ground or as random drops from beating up enemies. You can also sell these items by dropping them on specially marked blue areas. There are even items you find later on that are specifically for selling. And you most likely will see both of these spaces when the boss or a tough segment is coming up, so take the warning. Make sure you're ready for the enemies up ahead. Speaking of, the way enemies work in this mode is that if you see a flame up ahead, getting close to it will initiate a battle. During a battle, any way out is blocked off, and won't open until you beat the enemy in front of you. Enemies can range from random monsters like frogs, ghouls, giant rats, and mammoths to knights or playable characters. Getting to the end of the first 3 dungeons will pit you against Nork in Episode 1, Mufu in Episode 2, and Udan in Episode 3. Beating the dungeons will unlock these 3 characters, and you can play as them in tournament mode and quest mode. For the most part. For some reason, you don't get actual Nork, because I guess he'd be too big for quest mode, so you get Snork, which is small Nork. And, you know, he's cute and all, but I kinda wanted to be a big pig creature in a cape, but that's probably just me. Another thing with the unlockable characters is that they don't get the celebration cutscene after beating the tournament mode, which is a shame, but it's still cool to have the extra characters. After beating those dungeons, however, there lies only one more challenge for you. Udan's Dungeon. This place is 30 floors and adds all sorts of new items and enemies. It's a gauntlet, and if you die, then you gotta start from the very beginning. There are energy hearts, an item that appears in specific spots of a dungeon that you can consume. These give you an extra life, so if you die with one, you come back with full health. This helps mitigate some of the pain you might go through, but it still can be very tedious. But trust me, it's worth the effort. Because if you beat Udan's Dungeon, you unlock the secret character in this game, Toriyama Robo. It's Akira Toriyama's persona as a fighting game character. Which makes sense because Toriyama was the artist for this game. Yeah, besides Dragon Quest and Chrono Trigger, Toriyama also lended his talent to a fighting game that, let's face it, didn't do too well over here. It sold amazingly in Japan, which led to it getting a sequel, but we'll get to that. Oh, we'll get to that another time. As it stands, Tobal No.1 is a very great fighting game that, while solid even today, people probably only got it back then for the Final Fantasy VII sampler disc that came with it. And that's a shame. I really would love to see how this series would have evolved over the years, but alas, it was not meant to be. With all that said, that was my video on Tobal No.1. Let me know if you actually played Tobal back in the day and what you think about it, but only if you want to. Guys, be safe out there, and thank you so much for watching.